So welcome to Herkimer Central School District's Technology Integration Program. Today we're going to be talking about Smart Notebook. First thing I wanted you to know is that when you pull up Smart Notebook, which is the little icon that looks like, if we show you over here, it looks the Smart Notebook right here. You're going to open it up. It may ask you to log in. Feel free to do that. You're going to use your school email. So for example, I'm going to use rmatthew@herkimercsd.org and my school email login and password. That's going to activate the license, and you're going to need this. You're going to need the Smart Notebook license to do all this stuff on here. But since you're a teacher here, we've got like 100 licenses. So make sure you log in, sign in, log in, and make sure that all works. If it doesn't, please contact us, and we'll make sure you get on the list. So this is Smart Notebook. I open it up, and what is it? It's just basically a whiteboard, right? It's a whiteboard that we can write things down and make slides with. So here I've got Smart Lab, which I'm going to reference later on. You can draw on it. You can change the color of your pen. Okay. You can change the style of the pen if you want to have kind of a dotted line. Maybe you have a map activity. If anybody remembers Billy from the Family Circus, I always call that the Billy from the Family Circus line. We've got some options, obviously, like changing colors. There are different pen types up here in the corner. So if you wanted to do like a crayon, you can have a crayon look. We can have creative pens, which can make all sorts of fun, funky colors. You can also make it to make a bunch of smiley faces, stuff like that. There's Magic Pen, which is supposed to disappear after a while. A shape recognition pen. So all sorts of different stuff that you can, all sorts of different types of pen stuffs that you can create. I'm just going to hit this little plus here, make a new sheet. So basically what I do is I hit the plus, and that way I'm hanging on to everything that I write. Much like everything else, if I was doing homework, there is the shade, so I can hide part of the screen. If I want to turn that on, there are rulers. There's protractors. So if you're doing measurements or anything along those lines, if you want to make circles, there's this little cool guy here that will allow you to change this. They'll allow you to make circles and whatnot. So that's some things you can do. Charts, how big you want to do if you want to present. So this is if I'm presenting full screen, you can see the menu bar disappears. I just click this to bring it out of that. So there's a bunch of different little add-ons and tools. As you get to play around with it, you can type in text. You can make arrows, erase, fill color. It's just kind of like a normal brush program or whatnot. We can also, that's transparency, how much something is transparent. If you want to make things with sizes, so on and so forth. All sorts of different sort of stuff you can do on that.
Was there a whole nother one coming?
No. On the sides here, you can change. Oh. You can also add groups. So if you were going to be doing a bunch of different things that you want to split up into groups, you can do that. You can select it. Over here on the side, these are different gallery essentials that you can bring in. There's a bunch of preloaded pictures from Smart Notebook. They have examples and whatnot. They've got games, like, so if you wanted a board, like a checkers or chess board, you could pull in what checkers there are, different color checkers. There's a bunch of different templates. You can also add your own photos to this templates, but that's something I don't want to get into right now. It's very easy if you know how to just save things. Down here we have activity builders, which we'll be getting into. The Smart Exchange is essentially just looking around at some other things that other teachers have made. 3D objects are cool, but they're very limited. You can bring in flowers if you're going to try to talk about maybe the shapes, different parts of a flower or anything like that. And then there's activities. Again, we'll be getting to activities in a second. These are files that you might upload. You can insert, if you know you're working on something that you have a bunch of files, maybe you have images from prior regions, you can add those right there. And that's where you just insert it down here. This little insert button right there, that's where you're going to do that. We have fill effects. So if we were going to fill something, we wanted to fill a screen to do pictures or whatnot, we can have that. And then there's some different little widgets. So this is an algebra widget. I can bring in different algebra widgets, and you can see when it pops in here, it's a graphing program. I never taught math, so I don't know much about this, but if you need me to look at some of this stuff, I could certainly help you figure out exactly what all this stuff is. There's all sorts of a lot of widgets for math, because a lot of math teachers really like this program. So that's really a lot of the basic stuff. That's just stuff you can learn by playing around. What really makes it cool and really makes it interactive is these buttons up here. This one right here is called an assessment. We can make multiple choice assessment. We can make multiple choice, true, false, multiple answer. We could poll opinion or do short answer questions. And if I wanted to enter a question, I would just simply type in my question. I could type in an answer or use a photo as my answer. When I've got that all done, I can add a question. Let me just type in a couple of things here. If I just wanted to go over here, how was break? And we either have good or great. And then when I'm set, I could always add a question, do another question. When I'm done, I've got, I can set this to opinion. Continue edit. Question 2, I'm going to delete that question. If I wanted to, this is a poll opinion, so obviously there's not going to be a right answer. If it was multiple choice, I'd have to select what the right answer was for them to know, but since it's a poll or an opinion, I don't have to do that. So I can do good, great, okay, go next, over, great. So we can add in a title to our thing. We can add in instructions here for the students, and we can hit finish. And then the activity's loading. Now, if I want my students to be able to do this, and you guys can feel free to do this from home, and sorry that you're watching a blank screen. I don't think I'm any better to look at. If we send our kids, or if you go to hellosmart.com and enter in the code 144044, you will be able to connect to the classroom and interact with my opinion poll from wherever you want. Now, your class code is going to be different based on, obviously, you're going to have your own class code. So it's not going to be 144004 for you, but for my students, it would be 144044. And if I just kind of minimize this for a second and open up another tab, which I have one open over here, let me just drag it in. And we go to hellosmart.com. You're going to see what this looks like. So now we can sign in. Oops, let me sign in as guest. Let me go back. We can sign in as a guest. You obviously want your students to join with their Google Classroom. We need the class ID is 144004. I'm going to hit next. And I can put my name in as Mr. Matthew, join as guest. All your students would sign on using their Google sign-ons. And this is what's going to see. You see it says, hey, Mr. Matthew, just waiting for your teacher to start the session. And if I come back to here and hit start, we'll go back to see what the student. So here we go. How was break? It was great. Go back to the teachers. It says I've got one student has answered. I can close that out. I can show live results. So what our results are. And when I'm all set, I can end the activity. And then what happens is the students see, this is what basically the students are seeing as far as their side of it. The other option is the activity builder. The activity builder is a way to build interactive games for the students that they can play from their desktop or they can play from their Chromebook while you're doing. You can see we've got fill in the blanks. We have flip it out, which is basically a memory game. There's actually a game show. It has a little guy that spins the wheel and whatnot. We have a label reveal where you'd have a photo and students would have to reveal the photo. They can play a matching, and there's also a monster quiz. And that's a team game. Students complete the hatch their monsters by answering multiple choice true questions while encouraging peer interaction. So students work together to answer the questions. It's kind of like the balloon game when you're at the fair and you're squirting the gun at the clown's mouth. Right, that's the same thing. The more answers they get, the more the egg cracks, and then they're trying to crack their monster. So if we go to just game show, it works very similar to making a multiple choice question. We've got our question types, multiple choice or true, false. Okay, so we could come up with a bunch of questions, and then the game show pops up when it's all set to go. Again, let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to enter in a multiple choice question. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Let's say it's based on the owl and its commercials. Anybody remember how many the owl said it took?
It's 3.
It would be 3. That is correct. So we can do that. We can go next. We can randomize the question order, what questions the order, what order the questions pop up. And each kid that plays this, each kid that logs into hellosmart.com, make sure HelloSmart, not HelloFresh, they will be able to play the quiz game on their own and finish it up. And it's going to load up. And once again, here it is. If I hit start, time to spin, we spin it up the question. And how many licks does it take to center Tootsie Pop? That was 3. That's correct. We get 100 points. And so basically, you score up your points. You'll see that there's some extra points on here and so far. And then it'll rank the students and how well they did and so on and so forth. You can even review the questions so students can know exactly what they got right and what they got wrong. Right from here, if I notice that there was a problem, I can edit the slides. So I can play through it and then edit it before I give it to any students. I can always add questions if I feel I need to go back and add a question. So for example, true, I knew about smart lab activities. Whatever the answer might be. And finish. So now I've got my game show. And you'll notice that it will randomize the questions because I believe I had that fun. I did. Yay. And at any point, there's also some music that goes along with it, so on and so forth. So that's under activities. Really, some really cool ones if you want to look through those. There's also rank order, responses, speed up, shout it out. Shout out's kind of cool. You can see responses and shout out is saying that devices are required. So you can, anything that says devices required, students have to be on a Chromebook to play and they have to be logged into HelloSmart or Smart Lab. These other ones can be played in class. So something like speed up, super short can be played in class, but shout it out and devices required is something that you need to have a device for. So for example, shout it out, I used to use KWLs. Students can put down an answer, and if you have multiple groups of where they are, how many categories, the students can select which category to put one of their comments in. So if they want to say, oh, I know about this, or W, what about this, or L, I want to learn about this, they can actually, when they're entering in their comments, they can choose which thing to put it into. Let's go to, which is another thing is when doing groups, sometimes I like to do the lesson in one group, and then I would add a group and have my quiz in the new group. So my quiz would actually be my quiz would actually be a different group so the students can't see what's going on. They can't see the group and so on and so forth. This little puzzle piece is add-ons. Like I said, most of this is math stuff. There are some things like concept maps where you can draw and edit nodes and whatnot that you want to, and you can draw and link them together. Oops, it's just opening up GeoGebra again. So that's just some of the items that are that make Smart Notebook a little more powerful. The idea here being is beyond a whiteboard, it's actually, we can use it as an interactive tool to teach with our students and have them either join the classroom. They can even join the classroom if they're stuck at home. You're doing a synchronous lesson. So 6th grade, for example, it's doing synchronous lessons. They can be in one room, but the kids in the other room can still interact with that whiteboard. And that takes that takes it away from a smart board just being for the teacher, and makes it a little bit more usable for all students in our class and makes them feel part of class, whether they're here or at home or in a different classroom. So that's all I got. As always, I'll stop the recording and take any questions. I really highly suggest playing around with some of these features and see what you come up with.